Hello and welcome to the Warhammer Film Club. Every episode I am joined by a fabulous guest to talk about two movies. One that I've brought and one that my guest has brought that has a connection to our own hobby history, our enjoyment of sci-fi and fantasy, and Warhammer itself as well. Today I am joined by the incredible Duncan Rhodes. Duncan, hi, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you, Mr. Sorcery. That's how I think of you. I'm doing well, thank you. I've just been doing some prep work for more painting tutorials and just trying to think about these films and what bits I'd like to talk about. Try and keep them bottled up in my brain. It's been a really interesting experience watching this for something like this. First time I've done it.
Right, sure, yeah. I mean, did you? So we're going to be talking about Gladiator from 2000. We're going to be talking about Excalibur from 1981. Did you paint whilst you were watching these, or did you settle in to actually give them a full watch?
I did. And the reason is because right now, at the time we're filming this, I've very soon got a game with some friends who I've not seen for a while coming up. And I'm really, really trying to finish my core Cathay army so I can use that for the first time. You know that moment when you use a first army brand new, you don't know what the rules are yet, you've got to try and figure it out. I want to do that. It's been ages since I've got a new army on the table. So I've been frantically trying to paint Jade Lancers, which are some of the most challenging miniatures I've painted in quite some time.
Right, sure.
But I was, I had it all going on the screen. I was watching and yeah, it's quite a different experience because Gladiator I've seen 100 times, but Excalibur it was the first time I watched it. So,
right, sure.
yeah.
Okay, well that's going to be fun to get into. But let's start with Gladiator then. So, yeah, this came out in 2000, directed by Ridley Scott, starring Russell Crowe, and it's literally the story of a gladiator, right? But it starts with this mighty Roman general at the end of an incredible campaign. They've conquered most of the world at this point. He's looking to finish his career and go home and just live in peace. But there are political machinations, and he ends up basically betrayed and on the run, and then sold into the slavery of the gladiators.
It's like the ultimate revenge story.
Yeah. Right.
And I think at its core thread of the story, it's a really good revenge story. You've got your goodie and you got your baddie, and you want the goodie to go and get him. You know, and it's got such cathartic moments in it. In fact, from what I consider, it's got one of the most famous scenes in movie history.
Right.
When the baddie realizes who it is.
Sure. Right. Yeah.
And but I guess we'll come to it. But fantastic moment.
Yeah, incredible moment. Yeah. And I think exactly like you say, because it is this long revenge story, and our hero is absolutely put through the ringer. Right, he is just has a rough time, and it's so good, I think, as well, because you start with Maximus at like the height of his powers, almost.
Yes,
he's this general, he's respected, he's loved, and they're finishing a successful war, and you get to see in that opening sequence, this opening battle in Germania, when they're sort of taking off the final sort of barbarian tribes. You learn so much about him.
Yes.
In those scenes, they really give it time to breathe, I think, which is really nice.
They do.
The all feels really good.
Absolutely. You get the nice peaceful moment where he's just there stood on his own and he's like watching a robin, and there's a bit of an innocence about it. Then you can see Russell Crowe's a phenomenal actor, man.
Yeah,
he just really his expression only changes ever so slightly, and you see he's like, well, that's nice, but something bad's about to happen now. I've got to go and do this. And you can sort of see the weight of the world appearing on his shoulders. And then he squares up to it and he takes responsibility. And then he goes and the camera turns and you see the Roman army there. And it's like just been out of shot all along. Yeah. And you get that cool moment that the music swells and you see him marching up amongst the ranks and all the soldiers start nodding and saluting him and stuff. And it's all done spontaneously. So you can see that they love him, right? And he's their guy, which I think since I first watched the film, I learned much more about Roman history. And that's like one of the key flaws of the Roman Empire is that the army was loyal to the general. And that is an aspect in this story.
Sure, yeah. And a really important aspect, but it's like a weighty aspect that is kind of used to further a lot of the political stuff. But this is very, very cleverly at many points, I think, actually. They invoke the military, they invoke the army, and it's like, okay, well, they'll sort it out, that'll be part of it. But this is a film about gladiators. So it's all there in the background in the right way.
Yeah.
But they always find a way to make it, actually, this is going to be resolved in the gladiatorial arena.
Yeah.
Which I think is very clever as well.
Absolutely. But it really establishes the power of Rome, doesn't it? Like the efficiency and like how organized they are.
Yeah.
Because you see all the technology they've got, and you realize how much more advanced they are than the barbarian tribe they're about to have a battle against. And I think it's worth mentioning that, yeah, this did come out in 2000, right? So this is before Lord of the Rings or anything.
Hmm.
And so I went to see it because I remember it was on a review on, like, Jonathan Ross did that movie show at night.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I saw a review of it there, and I was like, that sounds really cool. And I was sort of tangentially interested in Romans, but this was taking place during my wilderness years for Warhammer. That we all tend to go through when you're a teenager, or you
Sure,
sort of drop
yeah.
out of it for a bit. And I was like, oh, that, war and stuff, that's pretty cool. That looks cool. And I mentioned it to my dad. And I had an exam at school, and I did really well in this exam. And I got home and I had the result. My dad was like, well done, we're going to the cinema. And so I got to see it as a reward. And I remember being there. He bought me a big bag of popcorn. Like, it all came on with this opening thing for the battle, and I was just there, like, eating the popcorn, like, oh my God, this is incredible. It blew me away. And actually, the reason why I chose it is because of this experience. This film became massively influential on me, of seeing this. And I think seeing the opening battle, right? Gladiator is quite strange. It does start very large and bombastic, and it gradually becomes more personal as the film goes on, doesn't it? And it ends up in quite a small, like, one-on-one fight. But that opening, I think it's set in my mind what I like to aim for in war games. I like the organized armies. I like the disciplined appearance of it, and the nice uniforms, and the clear distinction of your infantry, cavalry, and artillery. And it really drew me in. I was mesmerized by all of this.
Sure, yeah, I can totally see that. But yeah, because it is, not to minimize anything. Obviously this is war, and it's quite a good representation of all of that sort of brutal combat. But it's also quite cool. In a simplistic way.
Yeah.
It looks cool. It looks impressive.
Yeah.
And yeah, all of the battle lines and everything like that. It looks like you want your army to look at the start of the game of war.
Yeah. All the soldiers are there, and then when they, of course, they're all waiting, aren't they? And they're like, are they going to surrender, or are they going to fight? I was like, oh, we'll find out soon. And then they find out quite ruthlessly, don't they?
They do, yeah.
As the emissary comes back without a head.
Yes, yeah, and there's a really good, and again, this is one of those things where you get a lot of Maximus in, like, his reactions to these things. He's like quite. Obviously, you can see he's hoping that there's going to be, they'll come back and they'll surrender, but he also is pretty confident they're not going to do that.
Yeah, and they'll see life will be better with us. Yeah,
and he then just, like, is okay. Well, we now know what to do. We move on to the next phase of our plan because we're very calm and collected, and we know all this sort of stuff. I mean, and then you also get this really nice. There's a tiny little bit of friction with, like, his second in command.
Quintus. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because Quintus is like, because he's a bit nervous, so he's sort of second guessing where the artillery is, and, like, but Maximus is very calm, and he's like, no, it's fine, actually.
He's like, no, do we agree? And it's like, he's saying it like, you're going to do what I say. But it's very calm. It's very commanding, isn't it? You can see he's just got the authority just, like, bleeding off him.
Yeah, completely. Yeah. And then and I think when you see him walking around, before the battle and after the battle, when he's sort of walking around in his full armor and regalia, like, and I know this is intentional when it comes to, like, Space Marine designs, but he looks like a Space Marine.
He does. He's got the big shoulder, sort of like it's the Roman style pauldrons, right? But it has the same silhouette. It really makes me think of this Imperial Fist Captain that was in the first Tau Codex. Right. It's like this story where it's talking about them being shown around by some town, and they think it's a fire warrior, but he takes his helmet off, and it's the ethereal. And the picture of the Space Marine, the silhouette, he looks like Maximus with the big fur cloak going over his shoulders and things.
Yeah, that's dead right. That's the perfect comparison. Yeah, and because there's also that sort of regal, statesmanly like feel to that Space Marine as well in that moment. It absolutely is great. Yeah, so you're getting, like, you can see that relationship between Space Marine design and, like, Roman legionaries, and obviously there's a lot of terminology and ideas from Roman armies that have been picked up and used
all those Latin elements. And I love then how you get Maximus goes off to go and, like, lead the cavalry, and the orders are just, like, you can see they're so practiced. He doesn't have to say everything what to do. They just do what they're supposed to do, and you get that Hans Zimmer music starting to swell, and it's like I think it's called the Gladiator Waltz, I think is what the theme's called, and it just starts to build and build and build, and Quintus is just standing there just giving his orders very stoically and stuff, and then you see everything getting ready, all the troops standing up and getting their shields ready, and all the archers lighting their arrows, and it's so cool.
It is really cool. It's real,
Yeah.
and it's because it's all they've obviously and there's incredible special effects, and we'll
Mm,
get to some of those.
mm.
But they've also got loads of people in loads of
Yes.
armor,
Or
like
actual extras, yeah.
yeah, who are
Mm,
there and it just looks good. It
mm,
looks real. It looks tangible, and it
mm.
gives everything that comes after it like real weight. I think.
It does. Yeah. 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 And it really then emphasizes the contrast between the two sides. Like you see the barbarians are all doing this almost like they're daring themselves to charge and then they all pull
Mm,
back. They sound like a football crowd, don't they?
yes.
Whereas the Romans are silent. They just like they give the shout their orders, but then they stand up and it's like infantry advance and they all just start walking forward,
Yeah.
No yelling, no cheering or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then you can see them just walking, they all look totally calm, they've got their heads down, just and you know,
Yeah.
and then when
Completely.
the barbarians shoot their arrows, they just immediately just block the shields up and just get up. And again, no fear, just stoic.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It's
Mm.
super cool. And
Mm.
yeah, and those the barbarians as well. Of course, they have, and again, there's a lot of design elements that have been borrowed for
Mm.
Norse and Chaos Marauders and all those kinds of
Mm.
stuff.
Mm.
And yeah, you do see that kind of like there's a sort of feral energy and there's a fury
Mm.
within them. In the actual fight, there's an
Mm.
amazing. I don't know if he's like the leader of the barbarians or what
He's
have you.
like a big chieftain in there, yeah.
Yeah, big
Yeah.
chief, big huge chieftain with like, and he
Yeah.
looks like he's kind of got a Warhammer or some kind of like
Yeah.
massive, like,
Massive 200 Warhammer.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's really cool. And it takes like 10 men to bring him down.
It does, yeah. In a
Yeah,
typically Roman way, they just stand up behind him and just start stabbing him.
they
There's no
do.
like dramatics. It's just like efficient, doing our job. It's
Yeah,
horrible.
absolutely. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not really. I don't really know any of the real history behind it.
Mm.
The tiny bit you learn in school is kind of
Mm.
all I've got when it comes to Romans and that sort of era specifically.
Mm.
Do you know any of that history better? Have you sort of delved into any of that stuff?
Only lightly. So
Right.
Maximus is entirely made up. He's just like a invented vessel for the storyline to all run around. But Marcus Aurelius and Commodus were real.
Right.
But it's not quite the same story. So Marcus Aurelius, he definitely was you get this impression in the film as well. He was like a very scholarly character, and he's written lots of pieces that are still relevant today. To be honest with you, and
Right.
like the phrase "memento mori" comes from him. It's like, remember, you
Oh,
are going to die. You must die. It's an important part of life, and you have to remember that all the time because it's going to conduct how you act in life and stuff. So there's lots of philosophy that he did.
right.
But Commodus, on the other hand, is a bit nuts. But he had loads and loads of kids to Marcus Aurelius. But Commodus, he did joint rule with for a while, and then he died. I can't remember how he died. He doesn't die in the same way that he does in the film, but he dies, and Commodus takes over. And Commodus is not a great emperor. He's just not really interested, it seems. And you often get emperors who are like that. And the empire goes a little bit funny under his rule.
Right.
But I believe the real Commodus did die in the arena, I think.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah.
But I'm not certain on that. I'm a bit hazy on it. But
Right.
I really enjoyed how Ridley Scott largely took like a historical period of time, and he just altered it slightly to make it into an exciting yarn. Because whilst it's not historically accurate, it did really ignite for me an interest in Rome and ancient history. And it actually brought me back into Warhammer. It was one of the big things because I started going into the shops and things again after that, right? It did make me think like, this is really cool.
Yeah.
Like the ancient world is fascinating. It's like it's familiar yet alien at the same
Sure.
time. And I think the soundtrack actually does a really good job of evoking that because it feels mysterious and far away. It's like it makes it feel like fantasy in a way, but it's not.
Yeah.
It was yeah.
Yeah.
But what they did get very well is the character of the Romans or how they behave, like the political machinations they're doing, the warring between the emperor and the senate, the way the legionaries are professional, but the way that the legionaries are loyal to their general because their general is the one who ultimately makes sure they get paid.
Right.
And this is a cause of so many Roman civil wars. It's because, like, say, the emperor would die, and there's a bunch of top generals who are like, well, now it's my time. And so the legions then turn on each other and duke it out until one wins. So that's why you'll get, like, 4 emperors at the same time and things. So
Right.
they really nail all that in the film.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Which makes a lot of sense. And it is super interesting because you do get like it slides into this really political world, and I think the film does a great job of setting up because you've had this like the might of Rome, and the armies, and the threat and the danger, just how powerful this whole thing is. Now that we're into the question of like who's going to take over, that then has a real there's a real weight to the crown, as it were.
Yeah, yeah.
And Maximus doesn't even want it. He's
that's
like
the thing.
not
Yeah.
interested.
we should probably talk about Commodus at this point.
Yes.
So,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, Mark Aurelius' son, Commodus, the villain of the piece, played by Jacqueline Phoenix, or Jacqueline Phoenix, I think you pronounce it. But he, again, another phenomenal actor, right? And I actually really enjoyed this last viewing of it because I always just pictured him as like the baddie, and he was power hungry and he was evil. But actually, if you pay attention to what he's saying whilst Marcus Aurelius is still alive, he actually, Marcus Aurelius basically hasn't raised him very well. And what Commodus really wants is his approval and his love. But Aurelius has done things like, these are the qualities of what an emperor needs. Da, 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 da. And Commodus reads it and he's like, that's not me. Like, I have none of this. But I've got other things I can do, I've got these qualities. But Marcus has never really dealt with this problem.
Mm.
And so it's like, oh, actually, all the events I can see happening, it's not to excuse what Commodus does, but they should have seen this coming, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So anyway, Commodus is convinced that he's going to succeed the throne, right? And so going up to the front lines. But he's also a little bit cowardly, so he's arrived late. And it's suggested that he's arrived late on purpose.
Yeah.
And then when he gets there, he sees that everyone loves Maximus more than him. And Marcus Aurelius clearly loves Maximus more than him. And then Marcus Aurelius is like, yeah, I'm dying, but what we need to do is try and put the Rome back to being a republic rather than an empire or, with an emperor. So I'm going to empower you, Maximus, and I want you to put it back to the Senate. Now, he really should have made sure there were some guards around when he decided to tell Commodus about this.
Or written a letter or anything.
Yes. Yeah, any sort of evidence whatsoever.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. So that's maybe the only plot hole in the film.
And that opens the door to the subsequent narrative.
Yeah.
But yeah,
he makes a tale. Yeah.
He makes a really bad call.
Yeah.
Of he tells Maximus, right, I want you to take over when I die. Then one-on-one, like later that night, he's telling Commodus, and Commodus. Phoenix is absolutely incredible in this. There is such a sense of like he's so off kilter and menacing, and there's a tension to every single scene he's in.
Yes,
in a really interesting way, and the dynamics between him and whoever he's speaking to are slightly different every time. Like there's a tension between him and his sister that's really strange, but it's different to the tension between him and his father or Maximus. It's great.
Yeah, you're right.
So
it's always there because you can always see there's this underlying lack of confidence about him.
Yeah.
He's just missing something like this weight that someone in his position should have. It's not there. And he's constantly worried about how people are perceiving him.
Yeah,
and he's always thinking that people are talking behind his back and things. You can see it's just not quite again, I think the guy simply might be crazy, but he is living in ancient Rome, so you got to view it in the context of that world, right? So the politics and things are going to be there for someone in the imperial family. But they really should have seen this coming.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
He reacts in a way you might expect. And that scene where he is told he's not going to be emperor, you can see he's like falling apart because he's actually suddenly had all his beliefs that his dad doesn't actually love him. He feels they're suddenly confirmed. And he even says to Marcus Aurelius, it's like, I would have butchered the entire world just for your love. And it's like, oh.
Yeah, and that's the off-kilterness, right? Yeah, because it's very, you can sympathize to an extent. Again, it's played so well. There's real emotion in that scene. You kind of feel sorry for him a little bit.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, what he's saying is like wild and not good.
Yeah. It makes me think, so there's other emperors in Roman history who are like insane and do evil things. And then they sit themselves, they like do something awful. And then there's one of them, I think it's Nero. He's like, I must actually be a god because I've just done something so bad that I know is so bad that I don't understand why the gods haven't struck me down. So I guess I must be a god.
Right.
It was either him or Little Boots, Caligula. It's one of the two that said something like that. But Commodus, it feels to be like a different mold. Like that danger is still there, but it's not just like he's not evil for the sake of being evil. It's like a rampant paranoia is driving him to do weird things, and that paranoia stems from something.
Yeah,
fascinating character, incredibly acted.
Yeah, really, really good. And then you get this really, really good. Again, the tension comes out when Marcus Aurelius has died because Commodus has smothered him basically whilst he's embracing him.
Yeah,
and then Maximus is woken up in the middle of the night, and with the news, you've got to come and see the emperor. He obviously thinks he's going to go and see Marcus Aurelius, and then it's Commodus.
Yeah,
and he pretty much knows from the off that
Yeah.
Commodus has killed him.
Yeah, because he knows the situation. He knows what Commodus is like. And it's alluded to as well that they've known each other for a long time.
Yes.
And because it appears that Maximus used to have something with Lucilla, so Commodus' sister, right? And even Marcus Aurelius says you've known that Commodus has been dangerous since you were little, or since we're young. So there's obviously a lot of history. So he walks in, he sees the situation, he immediately knows what's gone on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's like, right, it's all about to kick off now. I better get my armor.
Yeah, and maybe
Yeah.
you could argue that maybe he doesn't play it in quite the right way, but he's not really
Yes.
a political mind. He doesn't want to dishonor him. He's a very honourable guy. He's not going to like kiss the Commodus's ring and sort of pretend to be on his side so that he can sort himself out. He's literally just like very out in the open, quite dismissive of Commodus.
Yeah.
And rally the senator, rally the army. We're going to sort this out and get it all straightened out.
Basically, dethrone him is what he's about to do, and they all know it. And again, it's that character of Commodus. It's like, right, I'll take my hand. I'll only say it once. And Maximus just walks off, and he's like, well, he's clearly going to try and take the power from me. I've got to kill him.
Yeah,
and it's just like straight like that. And Commodus reacts like this, like frequently.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's when we're sort of onto the. This is all just like the first, because this is like the first 20 minutes or so.
Yeah. It doesn't
and there's
take
loads
long.
in it. It's great.
Yeah, it really sets up, it very clearly sets up all the personalities, and then it just rolls the dice and off it goes. It's like a roller coaster from that point on.
Yeah, completely. Because then we get, then it becomes super personal because Commodus has Maximus's family killed. Maximus has escaped. Once he discovers this, because he's ridden all night and all day for however long to get home to discover the sort of, the ruins. Then he collapses, and that's when he gets picked up and taken into the slave trade.
Commodus probably didn't have to have his whole family killed, but
no, probably
maybe
not.
maybe he's thinking to himself in a Machiavellian way. It's like, right, I've got to finish off the family because one of them might come for revenge one day. Yeah. Maybe it's something like that. Because again, that rampant paranoia. Yeah. But it is a bit overkill.
It's a hugely overkill. Maybe it's like an arrogance. Maybe it's just like no loose ends kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like the gloves are off, right?
Yeah,
there's no controlling him now. Yeah.
And I suppose it also speaks to just Commodus is like, right, well, we'll just like, who cares? Just we can wipe out an entire family, burn down an entire house and estate. Doesn't really matter because lives mean nothing to him essentially. Yeah,
most powerful man on earth can do what he wants.
Yes, exactly. But obviously, that then means that Maximus has nothing else to live for. In fact, doesn't even want to survive his initial times, like
just
his initial period in being in the sort of gladiatorial arenas.
Yeah,
he's kind of like, I'm not too fussed.
Yeah,
but then he slowly starts to realize. Well, I think part of it is he starts to like winning in the fights and the crowds.
Yeah, he seems to get a buzz out of it, and I think he ends up in this weirdly destructive cycle, I guess, in that he's scarring off his legion mark on his arm, isn't he? He's like cutting it off. He won't talk to anybody, and his friend, the other gladiator, I can't remember his character. Ajuba, yes. Yeah. He's like, is that a mark of your gods? And Maximus just starts laughing, and he's like just nods, and then carries on cutting it off. And it's like, you can see basically his world's been destroyed, right? Yeah. He's seeing how horrible Rome actually is in the empire for a normal person, and it's not horrible. It's in like quite a grim area, right? But he's sort of seeing the realities of it. And there is a cut scene that happens around this point where some Christians get fed to lions.
Really?
Yeah. And he just watches it. And I think it's like he's realizing that when Marcus Aurelius was saying to him, you've not actually seen Rome, you don't know what it's like. Because Maximus has always been on campaign, right? And I think he's like being confronted with it. And it's like everything's falling apart. So he's just like, all right, I'll fight. Let's do it. Take out his anger. Yeah. And you're right. He turns out to be good at it. And he keeps on winning.
Yeah. And then that's going to sort of lead him on his vengeance quest. There's actually a really interesting thing actually with that about the realities of Rome in that earlier on, just during the sort of prep for the battle with the barbarians, I think it's Quintus who is sort of saying like, why don't they surrender? They should know that they're conquered.
Yeah.
And he says that, oh, well,
would you?
Yeah,
would
exactly.
I? Yeah.
Exactly that. Yeah. Because he's actually Spanish, right? He's from a conquered land.
Yeah.
So, there's all of that sort of running through this whole thing as well of just like, Rome has conquered everybody, but people never will. you can conquer their lands, but you can not like conquer them, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's all set during the height of the Roman Empire. Like
Mm,
I don't believe it gets any bigger from this point on. I think it just has like 100 years or so of staying roundabouts as it is, then it gradually declines
right.
and starts losing control of its territories. But yeah, this is the point where it's like the biggest extent, which it might be why the film was set in this point. Actually, I wonder.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I suppose because it literally is
mm.
it's a third of the world, I think they say.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
like
Huge.
third, a quarter, a third, it's something like that of the population lives and dies under the Caesars. It's
Right.
hard to get your head around. Like, if you were the emperor in that time, you're going to have the political like things happening, right? And you have to be careful of assassinations, and you got to be keeping your Praetorian Guard happy because they're the reason most emperors would topple because they didn't keep the Praetorians happy, right? But you, aside from this sort of thing, like on a day-to-day basis, unlimited power. You do
Mm,
whatever you want. And the crazy emperors know this and they take advantage of it. It must
sure.
mess with your brain to be in that position.
I would have thought so. Yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not too surprising that whichever emperor it was like,
Mm.
oh, I'm a god, basically,
Yeah.
because look at all this I can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be impossible to have that amount of power and for it not to really,
Mm.
yeah, just
To mess you up. Yeah.
yeah, basically,
Yeah.
yeah, completely, yeah, and
Mm.
yeah, and you get that from Commodus in pretty much
Mm.
every scene in one way or the other. He's definitely messed up, I
Mm.
think. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Because Commodus, meanwhile, thinks everything's great, doesn't he? But
yeah, but he's
yeah.
really interesting in that he because this kind of maybe speaks to that the real historical stuff you were saying. Like
Mm.
he doesn't seem to care that much about actually being emperor. Like he's not.
Mm.
He wants to be loved. He wants to be
Yeah.
adored. He wants
Yeah.
to be like have that kind of legacy. But he doesn't really care for like the day to day stuff. He doesn't like the Senate. He doesn't
Yeah.
want to work with anybody. So he's just like,
Yeah.
let's throw a load of games because that's exciting and people like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Because he turns up in Rome and there's all the crowds cheering him and stuff, but there's some of them booing him in the crowd. And
Mm.
when he gets to the senators waiting for him, he's like, "Oh, thanks for all the adoring people. I hope they weren't too expensive."
Sure.
Again, that
Yeah.
paranoia is digging into him. And then he has that scene in the Senate, and he's just there bored, spinning a sword. As they're like, "Oh, for your attention, Caesar, we've got these issues and things," and he's just like, "It's not important." Like, and they're like, "Well, what are you going to do?" He's like, "Well, the people are my children, and I am their father." And I'm going to embrace him. And again, that weird like obsession of we wanted his dad to love him, right? So that's all coming out. And the senator's like, "Have you ever embraced someone dying of plague?" You know? And you can see again, it's like that creepy apparently, like, "Oh, they're going to undermine me." And then he's got all these plans about how he's going to dissolve the Senate and remove them. And it's just going to be him in Rome, and he's going to be the father, and everything's going to be great. It's like this guy has no idea what like running the empires actually
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because he doesn't
he's not
care.
interested. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. It just doesn't matter. Like he
yeah,
wants the power and he wants the success, but he doesn't really
yeah. The
want to
adulation.
work for any of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's when his sister steps in as well, isn't it? So Lucilla's quite
yeah,
is far more practical
yeah,
and actually is like going to help him rule almost because
yeah.
you've
She
also
should
had
have
the
been in
sense,
charge. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, very much so
Mm,
that she was aware as well. So when Marcus
mm,
Aurelius was dead, and you had that encounter with
mm,
Maximus and Commodus,
mm.
like she probably knew as well, and has
Yes.
chosen not to rock the boat in that
Yeah,
moment. So she
yeah. She's
did bend
like,
the knee.
"Ooh, what am I going
Yeah,
to do?" Yeah,
yeah, because she slaps him. She slaps Commodus, and it
yeah.
seems to be like that's for killing our dad. And
Mm,
but now I've done that. I've
yeah.
had my expression of anger, and now it's back to business.
Yeah, the mask is like back in face. And of course, she's not bothered about it. But she admits later that she's terrified because she's got a son. And Commodus knows he can threaten her without actually having to threaten her by being dangerous around her son.
Yeah,
And then she's under the thumb, right? So she's like, well, she's terrified, isn't she? She doesn't know what to do.
yeah,
So she's trying to keep Rome like from going crazy, and she's trying to find ways around things. But ultimately, she doesn't know what to do until the arena battles happen.
yeah. Which and it's great, and I think that all of this, one of the reasons it works so well is because you have all of these different character dynamics, really well written, really well acted
Mm,
characters, given time
mm,
to like
yeah.
interact, and there's so the stakes are all real. They feel all really important.
Yes.
And then yeah,
Yeah,
you've
yeah,
got
yeah.
all of the amazing, like the cool action scenes in the arena
Mm,
because
mm,
there's the escalating, like step it up. It actually happens faster than I remembered it. Maximus
mm.
goes from sort of the very early days in the out in the middle of nowhere sort of gladiatorial
Yeah,
arenas. He's
yeah.
one of Oliver Reed's like new acquisitions.
Yeah, Proximo, who is
Yeah,
hilarious. Yeah.
He's so good. He's so good. And
Yeah.
it kind of, he's like, this is all dead weight. We'll separate the wheat from the chaff, see who
Mm.
survives. And obviously he's sort of building up his stable of gladiators. And
Yeah.
then because Commodus is throwing these mega games and needs
Yeah.
loads of gladiators, it's time for Proximo to bring his guys
Yeah.
into the
Yeah.
capital
The best
and to get
gladiators
involved.
in Rome, as he puts it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then they basically, in their first battle, where they're all supposed to just get completely wiped out, because
Mm.
Maximus leads the men like they're an army and kind of very
Yeah.
quickly rallies them to like act in concert with one another and have like strategies, and they're able to like use
Mm.
their shields to flip over the chariots and things like that. It's a really
Yeah.
cool,
Yeah.
very well done action scene. Very good.
It's a cool little bit in there. 'Cause again, it's well written, right? When you get the announcer talking about it, this battle in the arena is set. They call it the Battle of Carthage, or the Second Fall of Mighty Carthage, but actually it's based on the Battle of Zama. And this is the concluding battle of the Second Punic War, which is like the big epic world war of Rome versus Carthage, the real struggle they had with Hannibal involved. And Zama is where Scipio does the final defeat against Carthage and defeats Hannibal. So this is to the Romans. This is like the Battle of Britain, right?
Right.
This is the thing where their great enemy is defeated, and this is what then leads them on, like after that, to ultimately become the dominant empire in the Mediterranean. So the battle happens, and so the Romans are meant to wreck them, right? Because Carthage to Rome is like the boogeyman, and Hannibal's like they have a weird respect for him, but he's also like the character that the mother would tell the kid, go to bed, else Hannibal's going to get you.
Right.
He really bought into the Roman mind during those wars. So to have that as the setup, I think is really cool. And then to have the Carthaginian side win handedly is also really cool. And you can see that's why Commodus is my memory is hazy, but aren't the Carthaginians supposed to lose? And you can see the guy who's the announcer is like, and he's like sweating bullets. He's like, yes, sire, forgive me, sire. But Commodus is, everyone's having a great time and everyone's enjoying the surprise. So he's very jovial. He's like, oh, it's wonderful. Who is that guy who did that? I think I'll go and meet him. And of course, he doesn't know who it is, right?
Yeah, and it's great. But that is cool because again, you sort of like enjoy Commodus on screen. He's such a fun character to watch because his reactions are so unexpected. And he's like well into it because people are enjoying it. It doesn't matter. It really matters to him as long as he's getting like the adoration.
Yeah.
And then it leads you into the first face off.
One of the most famous scenes in movie history, I think.
Yeah.
Like, what a moment. Scene. It's so got the tension because Commodus is just like, da 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 da. Oh, great gladiator. All the Praetorian Guard are there. And you can see now Quintus has been promoted to be the commander of the Praetorian Guard as well, hasn't he? And they're all watching and none of them have any idea that it's Maximus. And Maximus, meanwhile, picks up a broken arrow. And I've forgotten about this, but he's hiding it because he's going to try and kill him up until Lucius runs in front of Commodus, and Commodus just holds him right across the front of his body. So he can't get him without killing Lucius.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to. So he's like, you can see him having to back off from it.
Yeah. But I think there's a moment when he thinks about it still. And he's like, oh, am I still going to have a go at doing it? But then, he sort of thinks better of it, doesn't he? And doesn't try and kill him.
So he's thrown. He doesn't know what to do. And when Commodus is like, why don't you take your helmet off and show us who you really are? And he's like, oh, God, I can't risk it. But I can't tell him who I am because then he'll kill me. So he goes, my name is Gladiator, turns around and walks off. And then the whole atmosphere changes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And Commodus is like, how dare you do that to me in front of everybody? Again, that paranoia switched. And he's like, you are going to take off your mask or else I'm going to kill you. And everyone knows it. So then you get that cool reveal and the music builds up and stuff. And Russell Crowe takes his helmet off slowly and turns around. And you can see the hatred on his face. Like, magnificent. That scene, yeah.
It's so good. It is so good. And that's when you get
the great thing where he says who he is.
Yeah. The amazing speech, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And he basically drops it and he's like, I'm probably dead at this point, and must be what he's thinking. So he's like, this is who I am. I am going to get my revenge. Whether you kill me now, I'm going to come back and get you no matter what. And then, like, Commodus is like, you can see him freaking out because he doesn't know what to do. And then he's put in a situation where, again, he's desperate for the people to love him because he wants them to view him as a father. And all the crowd, they also love Maximus, like he did a few seconds ago without knowing it. So they're all chanting live. And so Commodus is like, do I kill this threat to my rule now and have everyone hate me? Or do I let him live and have everyone love me? But this threat is now walking around. And you can see him like, and he's like turning to the audience and like trying to get them all to calm down. And he's like, And then when he puts his thumbs up, it's like he can't quite believe he's done it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Amazing.
absolutely. I mean, and this is another really clever way of doing it because the way they basically leverage the crowd and the adoration that Commodus wants. That is always in opposition to him also wanting to kill Maximus. So that it is believable because you might just be like, well, he's the emperor. He could just have this guy killed off screen. It's like, no, he could just have it done. And there are times when he does attempt this, but because of the balance of like wanting to be loved, he can never quite do it. He can't just have someone like sneak in and slit his throat in the middle of the night, or they even talk later on about has his food been poisoned. Yeah. And Jupiter's like, well, he needs to destroy your name before he destroys you. Yeah. Because he wants to be much loved. He wants to be the loved one, not the gladiator or Maximus.
So he can't kill the champion that all the people now love. Yeah. And he also knows that the senators are aware who Maximus is. So again, the paranoia starts building up out of control. And you can see things from this point on take quite a turn. Like Commodus is suddenly a very, very dangerous person from this point on.
Yeah. I really like that there's one of the senators who we'd seen right at the start who is like a sort of slimy. He's properly on Commodus' side. He's just like, whatever, sell everybody out, kill everybody, just kill him, just have him done.
He's like Wormtongue in his ear, isn't he? Like whispering, like you should just kill him and all this stuff. Yeah,
it's very good. So we then sort of get, I do actually, and again, I think is really nice in that over the course of the movie, it's quite believable that Maximus, because of who he is and how he acts, and the performance of that by Russell Crowe, like he wins everybody over. So like pretty much everybody sort of rallies around to his side by the time you get to the end of the movie. Because you have like the other slaves, the other gladiators. There's like a huge big guy who was initially
the big German dude.
And he ends up on his side, and there's like has a really heroic moment later on, sort of because Maximus has saved his life. Juba, obviously, Dimon Honsu, who's awesome. Yeah, like he's fully on his side as well.
Because they've been fighting together already.
Because he's Maximus is an honorable guy who it's hard for people to not like.
And you're right. During the battle in the arena with the Battle of Carthage, you can see all the gladiators that obviously they're meant to all get cut down by the chariots because they're all like a loose mob. But Maximus is a general, so he's like, whatever comes through his gates, we stand a better chance we work together. And he's like, have any of you been in the army? And one guy's like, I served with you in the Northern Front. And like one guy there knows it's Maximus. And he's like, oh, you can help me. And like when he starts giving the orders, you can see them all pulling together. And the German dude, he goes out his way to save him. From that point on, they're bros, man. They're all there. They're all a team. And he's just drawing people into his sphere of influence. And they're all following him because they respect him. And he's like looking out for them. It's just a part of who he is. And Commodus wants that, but he can't have it because he's just not the right person for it, is he?
Yeah, because Maximus is quite it comes from a natural, just his leadership, his charisma, his honorable nature.
Yeah.
And that just Commodus has none of that. So he's trying to fake it all basically throughout. But you sort of move. I mean, there's I was just thinking of one of the other senators, Derek Jacobi's in it as one of the senators as well, of course, having played in I, Claudius very famously. So that's like a fun little bit of casting nod to that historical drama as well. But he talks about how Commodus and the games is actually like a really clever idea because Rome is the mob. And if you win over the people, then you'll be able to like rule them. And there's because
more or less do anything,
basically. And he's just saying Rome is the mob, conjure magic for them, and they'll be distracted. Take away their freedom, and they'll still roar. The beating heart of Rome is not the marble of the Senate; it's the sand of the Colosseum. And he's just very much talking about like the distraction. You keep them happy, keep them entertained, and no one's really going to notice the bad stuff that Commodus is doing.
Exactly. If they feel good about him, that's all that's necessary. Right. Then they'll let him get away with things. He can do all sorts of stuff. So if they love him, you can dissolve the Senate because they're like, Commodus is cool, right? He's looking out for us. Those senators, whatever. Yeah. You can see that's the angle they're going for. Yeah.
Which very very prescient stuff and all that kind of political kind of view is always pretty relevant and quite important. But you sort of then get into maybe the Hollywoodness of things as we get into how the plot is now going to move forward to allow Maximus to actually like face down Commodus.
Yeah, they start developing this coup, don't they?
And this is where I think it's really well done again around the threat of that coup feels quite possible. Like the
Yes.
pieces are all there. Like his old like his right hand man, his aide de camp or whatever it might be. Like
Yeah.
he's there to rally his army and tell his people that he's coming.
Mm.
Lucilla's going to help him escape. Oliver Reed's going to let him out. At one point, they're talking about Derek Jacobi's senator is going to buy him and buy his freedom. So all of these parts are sort of coming together in a believable way for this like lowly gladiator, as it was, to escape and lead an army back into Rome.
Yeah.
But because this is a film about gladiators, you can't then do your third act is an army marching into Rome and big battles.
Yeah. Which I would have loved personally. But you're right.
Sure.
It's got to keep in the arena right. But you're right. It does feel believable because there is precedence for this. Because Caligula, he ultimately was killed because he was such a bloodthirsty person, right? And he was so flippant with lives and things that everyone knew that at any moment it could be them. And it gets to a point where I believe it's a centurion in the Praetorian Guard. He hears that Caligula basically is probably going to have him killed because he, I don't know, sneezed at the wrong moment or something like that. So he's like, right, I know that's a viable threat. I'm going to have to kill him first. So he basically murders him in the street, right? And that's how Caligula goes. But everyone knows how dangerous this emperor is, that everyone's all right with it. And then you get this big chaotic thing that then leads to Claudius taking over. Like unwillingly, just like, right, you're emperor now. Okay. But it's total, there's precedence for it, right? So also Commodus will understand that if he has enemies, they might just kill him. And so he has to do something about this. Yeah.
Yeah, so there is always that balance. You can't. He has sort of total power, but also not entirely because you still can't afford to let everybody be on against you. So he's sort of got to balance that a little bit.
Yeah.
But he uses his sort of sinister powers to manipulate his sister, through threatening her son.
To
find out about the plot and how is it going to play out and how are you going to get Maximus out.
Yeah.
He can then use that to betray everybody.
Yes. Yeah. So he foils the coup just as it's about to, like, as the escape attempt's happening. Poor Cicero pays for it. Poor brave Cicero.
Yeah.
And and then it seems all is lost.
Yeah.
Maximus is stuck.
Really rough, that, actually. Yeah. Because Cicero's like waiting for him on the horse beneath the tree.
Yeah.
But Maximus doesn't know that he's got a noose around his neck. Yeah. And then the horse bolts and then he's hanged and he
dies.
Archers to capture Maximus and all of the big German guy that dies in this heroic defense to allow him time to escape, and Oliver Reed's character, so Proximo, is killed as well. And famously Oliver Reed himself had passed away during the production of the film, so they had to change some of how that actually played out. I think it is very effective though. Like
you can't tell what scenes he's in and which he is.
Not really.
I've never been able to tell.
It's done, and it is obviously it is sad that the character dies, but it's quite a satisfying arc for Proximo. He sort of finds himself again a little bit.
Yeah, he becomes noble by the end of it, doesn't he? He does the right thing for Rome,
exactly,
rather than for himself, which he has been doing all along.
Yeah. Which and in one way you might be like, fair enough, because he was a slave and a gladiator and he had to fight for his freedom. So sure, why would he care about Rome? But also, this is like a Rome of men like Maximus, the noble guys who want to try and do the right thing. So you kind of like, do you choose selfishness, and then that's how Commodus ends up in power, or do you choose being a bit more noble, and that's how a man like Maximus might rule?
Yeah. But then it comes to the final confrontation.
Yeah,
and I do think to myself, he didn't have to go and do that, right? That was probably a bad idea for Commodus to come in and say, right, the only way we're going to solve this is to fight to the death in the arena. And obviously he tries to cheat, right? Yeah. But Maximus is clearly a very skilled combatant, and Commodus, you've not actually seen him in a real fight at all. And he's been in a training thing, like doing the sort of like a kata thing, isn't he? Like early on, you see him just off the side doing that. But how skilled he is in combat, you don't know. It's a bold strategy. Let's see how it works out for him.
I mean, and again, it is quite Hollywood in that moment. It kind of feels justified. Like I like that little training scene that you get early on, because it does give you at least a hint of, maybe he is like a swordsman. Maybe he does know what he's doing.
Yeah. Well, real Commodus did fight in the arena.
Right.
He loved it. So I can't remember whether he died in the arena or not, but he did fight in gladiator arenas, and it was certainly like a shameful thing for an emperor to go and do.
Right.
Yeah, because I mean, the Roman culture. It's like, they wouldn't approve of acting and things, so it'd be a bad thing for a noble to do stuff like that. So for the ruler of the known world to go down and do what is basically being a footballer
Yeah.
equivalent, it's a bit weird for all the nobility to be go, what's he doing that for?
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
That's
but yeah,
interesting.
real Commodus actually did this.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay. Well, I mean, and in this case, he tries to sort of stack the deck, doesn't he? Because, like you
Mm.
say, he cheats. He stabs Maximus in the back, and
Yes.
like they cover up the wound so you can't tell. So Maximus is kind of
Yeah.
like a drunk man, sort of wandering about.
Yeah.
He's a lot of
Yeah.
reactive fighting, but he's still
Mm.
got his instincts and stuff. But he's half.
Yes.
The suggestion is he's halfway dead already,
Yes.
and
Yeah. He's
he's sort of
struggling. Yeah.
yeah, making his way to Elysium
Yeah.
already, but he's
Yeah.
just got
Yeah.
one last thing to do before he gets
Yeah,
there.
he won't quit. And you can see he's like on the verge. He's like sort of like miming, pushing open the door to his farm and stuff, isn't there? And then Commodus comes at him with he's been injured. He comes at him with the stiletto dagger.
Yeah.
And then they have a proper fist fight, don't they? He's proper punching him and stuff. All the weapons
Yeah.
are gone. It's very raw and stuff. And then you get that awesome thing, like Commodus goes for him with a knife, and he catches it, and he's slowly like bending his arm round towards his own neck, and it's like, dude, drop the knife. But now his hands around Commodus's hands, so he can't let go of it, and it's slowly going towards his neck, and they're like looking eye to eye as he's slowly forcing it into his neck.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, what a way to have a revenge story conclude, like
It's
eye to eye, slowly putting the knife in.
absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
really like super personal from that big opening to this
Yeah.
this very
Yeah.
close personal
Yeah.
ending.
And all the music stops, and it's
Yeah.
just the sound effects of it all. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. I mean, you mentioned that music before.
Mm.
I totally agree. I think the score for this film is incredible.
Yeah.
It's very interesting how much Hans Zimmer borrows for himself for his Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
it works really well here as well. And then you get, when you get to the actual end, so
Mm.
Commodus is defeated, he's killed. Maximus also dies, but there is like a respect for him. I mean, you even get like he is carried out of the arena by like the people who respect and love him, and Commodus's body is just left on the floor because no one cares. But the music that's coming in for this is that Now We Are Free. This piece of music, Hans Zimmer and Lisa Gerrard, absolutely incredible piece of music.
Yeah.
So good, so full of emotion.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. And there the story ends, all tied up in a bow with no possibilities to continue it.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely definitely the end of the story. Just before that, I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you think Quintus is redeemed by his like last minute act?
Oh, yes, because of course he refuses to give Commodus a new sword, doesn't he, to finish Maximus when he's unarmed. I don't know. I think Quintus is quite a realist kind of person, and he realizes where the wind's blowing. And at the time when he basically gets promotion, he wants Maximus to go along with it, right? The things he says are there, and there's also some interest for him. You can see he's not very comfortable about what happens, but he does give the orders to go and kill Maximus.
Yes, he does.
And you can see looks in his face as Commodus is doing his thing. You can see he's not entirely comfortable with stuff, and he's a bit weirded out when he sees Maximus is still alive. So I think he's like waiting for an opportunity, but I do think it's largely for his own survival. Like he realizes, if Commodus is going to go, now's the time. Of course, if he'd made the wrong choice there, he would be dead after the battle was over, right?
Sure, yeah.
He certainly would have got executed for failing to provide the emperor with a sword.
Yeah.
But interesting, all the Praetorian follow Quintus's orders and not the emperor's.
Yeah, which again speaks to what you were saying before about, it's the commanders, their leaders that they actually follow.
Yeah, you could argue the Praetorian Guard are actually in charge of Rome.
Yeah, basically, I actually really like that the Praetorian Guard have, because they've got quite a rich, like, purple livery, haven't they, in their uniform, so you can tell the difference between them and the other.
Yeah. So apparently that was done on purpose, because in real life, the Praetorians, you can only know so much about what colours and things would have been like back 2,000 years ago. But my understanding is the Praetorians were more or less like a regular legionary with the same sort of coloured uniforms and things, so maybe like a white linen tunic or red or something. But apparently putting them in the black and purple was to make them more intimidating.
Right.
They look more dangerous, make them stand out. And I think it's really cool, right?
Yeah.
If I was going to paint a Roman army with some Praetorians in, I'd be tempted to paint them in black and purple. It makes them look dangerous, right? Makes them look cool. Yeah.
That's a classic trick in like Warhammer armies as well, isn't it? Because it's a slightly different uniform to make them look like the elites. It gives them a different feel to the rest of the army.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works very well. But yeah, I mean, I was really. So it's been a while since I've watched it, and revisiting it. It is such a good film. Like it's really, really good. It still holds up. The special effects are still amazing as well. Like the incredible stuff.
It's in my top 10, definitely. Yeah,
I can see it. Yeah, 100%. I think it makes perfect sense, and it does feel like a really good. Like it's not a fantasy film, but it's not too far away, if that makes sense. You know, you're drawing on some of the same kind of history that it plays into stuff like Warhammer. So there's kind of a bit of crossover when it comes to tabletop battles there.
Yeah. Well, I was like, I've not seen it for ages, at least 10 years. But before that, I'd seen it loads. It was like just a really common film that my friends in school and stuff would watch. And I remember, of course, this experience I mentioned, the cinema was amazing. And it's actually a really happy memory for me going to the cinema with my dad. It was just the two of us watching this film. And afterwards, I was asking him questions about Rome, because at that point, I didn't know that Caesar was the emperor. I thought it was just Julius Caesar. So there's all these things I didn't understand. He was then suggesting other Roman films to go and seek out and watch. So I started exploring that. I started reading about Roman history. It totally got me interested in it. It's actually, I brought a prop with me. It got me to get hold of Warhammer Ancient Battles.
Oh, yeah.
And I then did a Roman army using that. And I've only played against Romans and Vikings, weirdly enough, with that. That was like a number of years ago. But watching the film, it evoked this quite surprising, strong emotion in me, which I didn't really expect. Because, well, I was watching it with my wife, and there was, during the course of the film, we'd like, she'd ask a question maybe, or we'd talk about a random thing during it. And I felt like, sort of like slightly choked up with it. It was very strange, but it was enacting this really strong emotion. And I think it's because like I really missed that time when I first saw it. You know, I missed those interactions with my dad. I missed that sort of exploring it afterwards. And it felt like a very, very personal thing, which definitely influences how much I love the film, right? And definitely is one of the reasons it's in my top 10. But all that aside, I really would recommend anyone watch it. It's not a massively long film, is it? I think it's like an hour 40 minutes, an hour 50 or something.
It might get up to 2, maybe.
Maybe it does. It flew by for me.
It does fly by, I think. That's the thing. Yeah, it doesn't feel like there's no excess to it. Yes, it's a big story and there's lots of things that happen over the course of it, but it's not like you're never bored. You're never waiting to get to the next bit, because everything's quite efficient and really well structured.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. There is a certain weird magic to that kind of like nostalgic way of films, like bringing you back to when you first encountered it, or like an early memory with it, or what have you.
Yeah, because when that battle was playing out, I was 15 again with my box of popcorn,
right,
in the cinema with my dad. Yeah,
which is lovely, which is great. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, let's step into our second film of the double bill.
Sorry,
right?
I did ramble a lot about that.
Not at all.
But yes,
I think and maybe, given that this is a film that you're coming to for the first time, it might be quite a different reaction, and there maybe isn't quite as much to explore in the same like level of detail. But this was Excalibur from 1981, so John Boorman directed this, and this is literally, it's an adaptation of the legends, the myths of King Arthur, Knights of the Round Table, Lancelot, Guinevere, the magic sword Excalibur, and the Lady in the Lake, and all of this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
All kind of mashed together.
Yes.
In a surprisingly, again, probably around 2 hours, a little bit over 2 hours, I think.
Yeah, 2 hours, 20 minutes.
2:20, right?
Yeah.
And trying to do the entirety of
the whole life of Arthur. Yeah. I think so. I found it it was quite a challenging film to watch, to be honest. I think if I'd watched it when I was younger, I would have had the same feeling about it as things like Conan and stuff, because it feels like in that same vein. Yeah. But I think you had to pay attention to the time jumps, because it doesn't necessarily signal that there's a time jump happening. Sure. And I think it could do with like a 20 years later, like I think that would be a good idea to space it up, because as I started watching it, I didn't expect to watch the entire life of Arthur from literally conception to death. Right?
And that, because it really is like this, and it's a huge narrative. And I think structurally, and this is always one of the criticisms of Excalibur, is that like you say, you've got these big time jumps where you're sort of leaping
Mm,
around and you have to look for clues for where we are in the sort of broader
mm,
narrative. But
yeah.
you've also got like 20 different knights and their own stories.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
there are big periods where we kind of leave Arthur and we go off with, Lancelot or Gawain,
Yeah.
and we sort of see other aspects of the story,
Yeah.
and then we kind of bring it all back around. It's probably not the most elegantly put together film in that way. You
I would
compare it to
agree with that. Yeah.
Gladiator,
Yeah.
which
Yes.
has all of these, loads of characters, loads of dynamics, loads of stuff
Mm,
happening, but
mm.
is really efficient with it,
Yes.
and it's a very
Yeah.
clear straight line through that story.
Yeah.
Here, we're kind of all over the place. You'll see
Yeah.
bits of this, bits of that. One of the things that I really like about it, though, is because it's infused throughout with
Mm.
magic. You
Yes.
kind of get like there's just loads of stuff yeah, there's oddities from how they've made it, but
Mm.
then there's also just oddities by design of like,
Yeah.
I guess there's some magic stuff happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that I did like that there was no part where everyone was like, magic, that's not real. They all just believe it on the face of it, right?
Yeah,
And they're all just like, well, of course the person who wields Excalibur is king. Because that's what the Lady of the Lake, that's what, when the sword was raised for the first time, that's what was decreed. And there you go. Or like when, the Arthur's father, Uther Pendragon, when he
Mhm.
drives a sword into the stone and he's like, whoever draws this will be king of England. Everyone's like, yep, of course they will. Everyone just believes it, which I quite appreciate it because, like with modern fantasy, there tends to be like quite a lot of cynicism about it.
Mm.
Like imagine this happening in a Game of Thrones thing. Basically, the sword and the stone would become a political tool to manipulate who's going to be in charge and stuff. But this is just straight up, oh, who's going to do it? And obviously, whoever draws the sword. All right, everyone, there we go. There's a brief bit of confusion about it, but ultimately, everyone falls in line pretty quick.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, which I really like as well, and I think because Merlin is wandering about, I think the Merlin is
Mm.
fantastic. He's
Mm.
such an odd, he's kind of like sometimes seems a bit like he's not quite there. Like
Yeah,
he's just not
he's
that he's not
crazy, isn't he?
interested, but he's
Yeah,
just got different concerns in those
yeah.
times.
His head's elsewhere. He's like
Yeah,
seeing different things. When he has conversations with people, he means something different to what he's actually saying.
yeah,
Yeah,
which I
and I
think is
like
great.
I like how his character doesn't change throughout the whole thing. Like he doesn't age at all. He's just
Yeah,
constant, right? He's like Gandalf, no
exactly
alteration at
that.
all.
Yeah, yeah, and also he's like because of the way magic works, there's always a cost. There's always
Mm,
some darker side to it. You can't just get
mm,
something for nothing. And
mm,
a lot of the things that go wrong,
mm.
magically or otherwise, are because someone wants something they shouldn't want, and then
Yes,
they either
yeah,
risk everything or they basically make terrible choices constantly
yes,
for selfish reasons most of the time.
yeah, yeah. They do something unknightly, which
Yeah,
is a thing. So I do have a fascination of knights and chivalry, right? My obsession with Britannia comes from this sort of stuff. And there is definitely a case where you can see the story, like Arthur's main challenge on it is doing the knightly thing, doing the honorable thing, right? And when a character doesn't do the honorable thing, that's when things go off the rails. Um, and you can like lots of like, in fact, the plot even gets kicked off by that sort of thing, doesn't it? Like, like, well, yeah, you've got peace, but unfortunately, lust got the better of you, and back to war again.
yeah.
Just as quick as that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's literally, yeah, it is that night they just are
Yeah,
back at war again because
yeah,
Uther
exactly. Yeah,
can't control his own like urges essentially,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
promises his own firstborn
Mm.
to Merlin in return for just being able to
Yeah, have a night with a lady. Yeah,
yeah, basically,
yeah.
and it
Mm.
so yeah, there's all of that sort of stuff, and you mentioned Gandalf just a second ago in relation to Merlin. One of the really interesting things about this movie is that originally John Borman, the writer director, was going to make Lord of the Rings. So he
Oh,
was working on a Lord of the Rings film, trying to
yeah.
condense the entire trilogy into one movie. Much as he would attempt with L'Amort
Mm-hmm.
d'Arthur here and try and put it all
Mm-hmm.
into one place. He was working on that. United Artists had the rights to it
Mm.
because it was going to cost so much money to create
Mm.
this, Lord of the Rings in like 1981.
Yeah.
Um, they ended up saying no, it's just too costly. We're going to have to do something different, and that is when United Artists went with the animated version instead.
Oh,
So
that's where
Ralph
that came
Bakshi's
from.
version was there,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then John Borman was kind of left to sort of pick up the pieces of his draft and try and turn it
Mm.
into something new. And I think
Mm.
that you can still see some of those Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings bits in here
Yeah, the yeah
throughout.
the like I say the underlying magic going all the way through it. It really
Yeah,
does feel fantasy.
it does.
I mean, so it takes place in the Dark Ages, and I can't recall if they allude to England or anything like that, or any of these old kingdoms of like
Yeah, I
Wessex
don't
and
know.
things.
I
They
don't think
don't
we
seem to
do get
mention
any
any of it.
specifics.
Yeah, but they start out wearing like plate armor that looks like Chaos Warriors, don't they?
Yeah.
But by the time the Round Table's formed, all of a sudden they look like ridiculously shiny holy knights.
Yeah, they're all
Again,
Stormcast by the
they
end.
are, yeah. They go so shiny. Like you can see they're doing lighting effects to make them super bright and
Yeah,
reflective and things. So they're really trying to go into like the fantasy aspect of it. And I quite appreciate that because, if you try and make it historical, it'll look like a dark age, like Viking looking thing, right? So I like that they're just like very clearly planting their flag. It made me think actually of A Knight's Tale, the start of that, where it's like, just so you know, this film's not historically accurate, and we're going to explain it to you by playing "We Will Rock You" with all the peasants singing along to it, right? So it felt a lot like that right from the start, which I liked. Yeah,
yeah, it works. I think there are moments in the film that I genuinely think, even despite this. So I like the movie overall. I'm a fan overall, but I don't know that I would always recommend it to someone. Like I think it's an acquired taste.
Yes,
And
I think so. Yeah.
there are some moments though that I just think are really good, just like genuinely great moments. I mean, one of them is so we have the young Arthur who is he's drawn the sword almost by accident. There's an amazing bit when his brother
That's a
turns
cool
up.
scene. Yeah.
yeah,
yeah. It's like, I need a sword. Oh, that'll do.
yeah, exactly. He literally just grabs it.
Yeah.
And his brother turns up and takes the sword off him, and then their dad comes over and is like, "Oh, have you drawn the sword?" And the brother is like, "Yes." Oh no! Like he initially wants to lie, but then whether it's the sword or just like the nobility of it or the magical one, he then immediately is like, "Oh no, actually, it was Arthur who drew it."
Exactly. Well, he's a knight, isn't he? And a knight shouldn't lie.
Right.
So he just straight up, the squire did it.
yeah, exactly.
And everyone immediately, I can see there's like but a squire can't draw it. We better knight him then.
yeah.
But then, of course, like before that can happen, it all kicks off. That bit I found it really made me laugh because the Arthur's dad, his foster father, is the actor that plays Richard in Keeping Up Appearances.
Yes.
And I was like, what's he doing? It's the only other thing I've ever seen him in. That really made me
completely.
laugh.
But yeah, no, I really like that because, like you say, that leads into Arthur getting knighted. So the knight who had tried to get the sword out of the stone before him, Uriens, he's like quite mad about it. So he's like, "Oh, I'm going to try now," and they can't get it out. And Arthur's pulled it. There's then a load of fighting, and then Arthur kind of proves his valor in a bit of a fight, and that Patrick Stewart's castle is being attacked and is besieged. Arthur gets involved, does a load of cool stuff, and then in the moat, there's this moment when that same knight who sort of didn't believe, he and Arthur have kind of just had a little bit of a tussle, and Arthur has him at his mercy, and the knight can't. Uriens won't like swear allegiance to him because Arthur's not a knight. So Arthur then just immediately turns the sword around and gives Uriens Excalibur and said, "You're going to have to knight me then." And there's this moment when Uriens is kind of like stood with the sword above him, and it kind of is like he could kill Arthur right now. But is it the magic of the sword? Is it the honor of the moment?
I did wonder.
Right, yeah.
So I thought when he looks like he's struggling, and so I did think maybe it's magic in the sword. But when he says, like, immediately after he knights him, and then he's like, "You've just proven to me that you're the most courageous man around."
Right.
Not necessarily the word I'd choose, right? Giving the sword to your enemy who wants to kill you. I'm not sure if that's courageous or stupid, but that's what he does. And when he says that, it made me think, oh, actually, they have really gone out their way. Like, again, that through line seems to be what's the honourable thing for a knight to do? What should a knight do?
Yeah.
And that this guy, he might be the baddie, he doesn't accept the squire being his lord. But then he is a knight, and he's like, this guy is basically showing me mercy. Showing me so much mercy, he's putting his weapon into my hand and asking a favour of me.
Yeah.
Well, you got to do the honourable thing. All right, I'll knight you.
Yeah.
Honour is all, right? Chivalry is all.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I think it's really good, and there's a bit of music there as well, or the sound of the sword or something. Really, really cool. And I'm a big fan, and I think that this is a cool thing in Lord of the Rings, but just generally of like magic items being like shown to be magical. It's one of the cool things in Warhammer, right? In Warhammer Fantasy. Like magic items, there's loads of cool magic items, and they all do weird and wonderful things. They all have these amazing histories. I love seeing that in films. There's whether it's the ring and like the ring having its own thought, like it
Yeah, it's a
wants
voice.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
and that's cool. The
Yeah.
sword Excalibur, like having its own, like whether it's desires or whatever, like just the effect it has on the world and
Yes.
the things that it can then do and that causes to happen. I think that is really cool, just conceptually. I think it's cool to
Yeah.
see it. So I
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
like that. And the film does a few things like that. There's like later on when there's a fight with Lancelot, because
Mm.
Lancelot won't let anybody cross the bridge unless they can best
Yes.
him in combat.
Yeah.
And Arthur is really mad about it. So he goes to fight him,
Mm.
ends up, he's about to lose, but he calls on the power of Excalibur,
Mm.
which he shouldn't really do. And
Mm.
those, when he strikes Lancelot down, that shatters Excalibur
Yeah.
because
Yeah. Because
he's like used it for something he shouldn't
he's
have.
not doing the knightly thing.
Right.
Excalibur is like the core of chivalry, right? He's supposed to be honorable and noble and above all the petty concerns of mortal men, right?
Yeah.
But Arthur is like he's got angry, he's got arrogance, like how dare this person stand up to me? I'm Arthur, I'm the rightful king. I'm going to mess you up now, and so he uses the sword in a way that is wrong and ignoble and stuff, and it breaks the sword, right?
Yeah.
And then you get that moment where he's like, "Oh, I've realised I've done bad.
Yeah.
That's not what a knightly thing is supposed to be. That's not kingly."
Yeah, I love that. I think it's really, really good. And then, there is because it's magic, he gets to put the sword in the water and the Lady of the Lake returns it and Lancelot lives.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, okay,
Yeah.
actually things are okay,
Yeah.
but you've learned a lesson now. So I quite like that.
Mm.
And then we kind of go through, obviously you get the Lancelot and Guinevere kind of subplot. There's an amazing sequence because they have an affair, and the betrayal of Lancelot, the greatest knight of the Round Table. He never comes back to Camelot because he's afraid that he will fall in love with Guinevere, and he does. They lie together. Arthur sees this and then doesn't do anything about it. And when they wake up, the sword is sticking out of the ground between them, like representing the.
So they know they've seen it, but they also realize they've broken something sacred, and that the king no longer is whole.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then everything just starts to go wrong straight away. But it's funny that bit before. So, two thoughts on the sequence leading up to this. The first is that I realised when you saw Camelot over the hill, and basically Percival had just turned up for the first time, and Lancelot's taken on as a squire. I realised at this point, this is what Monty Python and the Holy Grail's been making fun of.
Right.
I kept seeing like, that joke came from that thing. So that happened. The second is at this point, the kingdom is so awesome that everyone's bored and no one knows what to do. And so they end up having this argument. Because another one of the knights sees that he's like, Lancelot hasn't turned up, and he's seen that he's been looking at Guinevere, and Guinevere's been looking back at him, and he's like, "Nah, there's something funny going off with your wife." And it's like, thank goodness we've got something to have a fight about. How dare you? And it like descends into this joust, and it's all so over the top.
Yeah,
and it just really struck me as interesting that everyone's so bored they're willing to start fighting for nothing.
Yeah, completely, and also there's a bit of because Morgana has been whispering in his ear as well, hasn't she? And trying to, because that's Liam Neeson, of course, like trying to get him to sort of rise, to debate it and sort of cause problems.
Yeah.
There's an amazing bit in that as well, which again speaks to the sort of nobility. So Percival, who's the squire, none of the knights will step in to protect Guinevere's honor with Lancelot not there.
Yeah.
But Percival, the squire, will. And there's like just this, again, it's this moment of someone who's just being super honorable. Maybe it's because it was a chance for him to sort of, get a promotion. Yeah. But also, it's like someone's got to do it, and he was the only honorable person who would.
Yeah, yeah. The Queen's honor must be defended. There's no one else to do it. Well, I'm going to have to do it. That's a knightly thing to do, right? So there we go.
Yeah, and even Arthur, who's furious and wants to step in and defend her honor himself, he has to. He can't because he's got to be the king, who's the adjudicator.
Yeah,
so he kind of needs to leave it to somebody else, which is quite a cool. One of these odd sort of the laws of the land and all that. Yeah. The laws of chivalry.
It doesn't really make sense until you step into that mindset of like, this is a different time. This culture is about honor and stuff, and they're all trying to like achieve these ideals, but they do keep failing at them. When you start thinking in that way, it's like, all right, these decisions now are starting to make sense.
Yeah. And once Guinevere and Lancelot discover that Arthur knows and he's sort of abandoned the sword, there's like Lancelot's reaction is great when he just sort of wakes up and he's like, the king without a sword, a land without a king, and he just runs. He basically goes mad. He just runs off,
and it's his fault. Has how he views it. Yeah. Basically, he's the perfect knight. He's made the biggest sin. He's not only had an affair, but he's done so with the Queen, who's the wife of his best friend. And it's like, oh, that's a pretty big screw up just there.
Yeah, real
And
mess.
like you say, he just loses his mind, doesn't he? He loses everything. It's like painting the perfect picture and then accidentally splodging a big piece of red right in the middle of it and throw it all out. All is doomed, you know.
Yeah, and then like you say, that leaves Arthur kind of, he's bereft. He's lost everything as well. He's still king, but he loses himself, I suppose, and loses his kingdom in a sort of metaphorical sense.
Yeah, there's a weird mythos to it. And I think actually it's funny you should mention Lord of the Rings because it really reminded me of that. Because in Lord of the Rings there appears to be some sort of sacred role with being a king, in that the country has to have a king, like Gondor has to have a king. When it doesn't, it's in decline. But the moment it has a king again, everything's brilliant. It's just like a flicking a switch. And it's almost like it's willed by God or something. And without that, things aren't right. So you can see when the king doesn't have his sword and things aren't complete, and he's feels betrayed. Everything just all of a sudden goes off a cliff, and it was perfect. And then it's like, ruins.
Yeah,
and the whole of Camelot just becomes a different place, doesn't it? Like
completely. Yeah. And there's also like the quest for the Holy Grail sort of kicks off then as well, because people, they think that if they can get the Holy Grail and Arthur can sup from the Grail, then that will restore him and restore Camelot and the kingdom, and everything will be good again as a result of that. So you then get like a load of harrowing, like scenes of the knights trying to get the Holy Grail, and we sort of follow Gawain as he's trying to find it and has a real rough time sort of going about and struggling to get hold of
weird stuff.
Yeah.
And is it at this point that you get introduced to Mordred as well?
Yeah, so Mordred being so this is really sort of dark, the darkness of Morgana. So she's been about as the kind of witchy lady throughout. She was there the night that Uther Pendragon used Merlin's magic to seduce her mother. And that, so Arthur himself was conceived through like magical lies, and Morgana knows this and always has. She then, when they're a bit older and one of the time jumps, convinces Merlin to help her learn a bit more about magic. And he kind of is intrigued by the fact that she knows a bit about it and kind of maybe gives her a bit too much knowledge as a result. So she then uses her own powers to seduce Arthur, and then has Mordred, her son, who I think dresses like Commander Dante.
Yes, he does. That gold. That's probably what Dante was inspired by, right? With the death mask
like
style helmet.
Yeah,
he's so creepy, isn't he?
Yeah, he's really.
The actors they picked for him as he ages, bang on, because he's so weird.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It has a real like ethereal, otherworldly, sinister quality to him. So as a kid, he's kind of running around because it's complete gold body armor, and again, kind of Stormcast like gold body armor, but with this very like elaborate headpiece.
With only his mouth showing, isn't it?
It's like a great design.
Sort of a stoic face and this weird curly hair sculpted into the top of the helmet.
It's almost like Grecian in a way. It's kind of like it's very dramatic, I think, look. And then as Mordred ages up, is then kind of just a real sort of a very creepy character as well. Completely devoted to Morgana and obviously the sort of evils of whatever her sort of, she kind of just wants to ruin Arthur's life and ruin Camelot. Really, that's kind of her, I think.
This was one of those times where I think it would have helped if there was just some sort of thing telling you how many years were happening, because Mordred just ages quite quickly, and I couldn't tell if that was something to do with the weird dark magic that had conceived him, or if it was a time skip. And I didn't really understand that till later on, as we'll get to, when you see Morgana's end.
Sure.
Yeah. But they continue on the quest for the Grail, and eventually it is found.
Yeah, and there's because Morgana sort of steps in to try and stop Gawain from finding it, and kind of leads him astray. But that almost inadvertently helps him. The pain and the suffering and all of that sort of stuff that he's been through is kind of reaches its apex during that time. In Morgana's
and
kind of
he refuses to give up hope, right?
Yes.
Which is the knightly thing, right? No matter the odds, he's still trying to do the right thing.
Yeah,
and
which I love.
When everyone around him's failing, he won't. Yeah,
it's great. It's a real, like you say, these are the knightly things. These are sort of these are the great elements of these myths that are quite magical and that abiding. The hope will bring him to the Grail because of his complete and utter faith and love for his king and for Camelot.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he ultimately does get the Grail and brings it back to Arthur.
Yeah. I think so. As I understand it, so I've never read the like original Arthurian myths, but as I understand it, they're similar to Robin Hood in that they're basically like a more of a collection of life lessons in a way,
Sure. Right.
like tales trying to teach you about doing the right thing and explaining difficult situations. It's going to be hard, but the rewards are from doing the difficult thing and doing the right thing. And it seems to me that this like scenes like that with the Quest of the Grail is just a literal interpretation of the hardships and things. But as I understand it, it comes from a source of basically like during life you're going to encounter like really horrible things, but to do the right thing, it's not easy, but it's what must be done to have the good result for people around you. And that really plays out in that very literal way, which I thought was, it's very weird and it's very dark imagery and stuff. But in the end, the knight does what he has to do.
Yeah, and and he's the only one who does as well. Like, there's loads of other knights who don't make it, but Gawain is the one who is able to get through it. But yeah, I mean, I because obviously, so as I understand it, this film and its sort of structure and its content is mostly based on a particular retelling of the Arthurian legend. So Le Morte d'Arthur, which is Thomas Mallory's. I think it's from like 1470 or something around there. So it's real old, and it's apparently quite big. And it collected, like you say, it collected up all of these different stories and kind of put them all together into one.
Yeah.
And I think that particular text, those particular versions of these legends, are what did feed into like Nigel Stillman's Bretonian and all that sort of stuff.
I think so, yeah, because it is very early Bretonian with a lot of these like over the top heroic things.
Yeah,
I was a bit disappointed the Green Knight didn't show up at any point.
Sure, yeah,
that would have been cool.
yeah, very much so. I mean, it's a conversation for another time, but I did watch a Green Knight movie recently featuring Sean Connery as the Green Knight. And he's like got glittery green face, but he's very cool. He's got a big axe. Interesting movie. We'll come back to that. But yeah, in this particular movie, now that Arthur has got the Grail and he takes a sip and he's restored from that, and you see in the background. So whilst Arthur is like, right, we're going to get the knights, get everyone together, we're going to go and sort this out. You see in the background, Gawain is just knackered.
Yeah, it's just like, oh God. He's like, he needs to sit down.
I thought that was a nice touch. But then, Arthur, and this is the other amazing moment for me. This is one of those great cinematic moments of just pure brilliance. Arthur summons his knights, and there's his brother goes off, and he's like, get the squires, get the knights, we're all going out. And then you get O Fortuna, as the knights ride through the land. Oh man,
dramatic shots when they're all galloping with their lancers and they've got the big flowing red banner and stuff.
Absolutely, it's so good. It's really short, but it exactly like you said, it's now the king is back. The land has a king again. The land is restored, so nature is coming back, and the trees start to bloom again, and all this sort of
everything's right again. Yeah. All the armor's gleaming again, isn't it?
Yes. It's a fantastic moment. And that then leads to, you basically get the Arthur goes and sees Guinevere, who's now a nun, and he forgives her essentially. And he asks for her forgiveness, which she gives him by returning the sword. She returns Excalibur to him.
She's got Excalibur still,
Yeah, which is great. All really good stuff. And then he's able to then go and face down Morgana and Mordred. I really like that sort of final little sequence as well of the battle. There's earlier battles in this, which I think are pretty good for the time.
Yeah, there's a lot of battles in this.
There's a lot of battles. It's not the scale of Gladiator, and there's maybe too many sound effects for their clinking armor here and there.
It's really over the top. The constant rattle of them moving around, isn't there?
But there's it's still, I like this particular scene because there's not that many knights of the Round Table left because they've all died trying to find the Grail, right? So there's hardly anybody left. They have to then they call on the magic of Merlin, who's actually been captured by Morgana for a period of time.
Yeah, she's been siphoning his magic, hasn't she?
Yeah, and using it for evil purposes, but they are able to awaken the dragon of the earth once again, by calling on Merlin.
Yeah.
That brings a fog, and that masks their numbers. So they're then able to sort of use a bit of stealth tactics to get one over on Mordred.
Yeah. And Morgana, she's obviously asleep in a tent, and Merlin walks in there, doesn't he? And he's like, still looking very young and beautiful, I see. And this is what keyed me onto, it has been years. Because he's like, yeah, you're still unnaturally beautiful and looking young. I wonder if it's because you've been diverting all your magic into that and that's made you weaker in other places. And then he basically sort of manipulates her into giving away the magic into that dragon.
Yeah.
And then when you next see her, she's just an old crone, isn't she?
Yeah.
And
it's really good.
But she doesn't know. But of course, Mordred's like, who the hell are you?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's her end. Yeah.
It's really cool. Yeah. Because that, again, is the idea of magic. It's like you can use it, but there's a cost. There's a dark, it's going to take something from you. And then also that little manipulation back, like you say, while she's sleeping, Merlin's able to sort of twist things back in his favor.
Yeah. Yeah.
All of that, like, slightly odd, slightly intangible use of magic. I love it. I think it's like in a movie, it's such a cool way to use magic without it having to be just like big lightning effects. I like that too, but here you're gonna get magic as this weird force that does stuff that you can't quite understand, but has an effect.
Yeah. Like the right back at the start, the Morgana's father, when he gets killed when he's away trying to find Uther Pendragon, he's killed because some birds suddenly fly up and spook his horse and throw him into a rack of spears. And like the magic will work in odd manipulative ways. Like I say, it's not lightning or anything, but it is going to do stuff that's going to have that key effect at that right moment. That's going to shift, the course of fate into the way it needs to be.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. I think that's a really cool way of doing it. And then you also get something else I'm a big fan of, which is like the cavalry arriving and saving the day. In this case, it's one knight. It's Lancelot.
The finest knight who ever lived.
Yeah. And he's basically become like a flagellant at this point because he's lost his mind. He's kind of lost his kingdom and his king. But he saw Gawain earlier on, who was like, don't lose hope, and you've got to stick around. And he sort of then comes running in, but he's still kind of like this bearded madman. But also a knight.
He's no longer acting with the same grace that he had. But you can see that fervor for basically redemption is there.
Yeah. And it does get everyone like, oh, it's Lancelot. He's with us. He's back. He's with us.
Lancelot's back. The best knight ever. And he looks like a total mess. And they're all like, oh, let's do this, aren't they?
Yeah. It's great. It's someone rolled a 6, basically, in that moment.
They did. Yeah, they did. They got that devastating impact on the charge,
and, so then you kind of get the resolution. Arthur ends up dying in the battle, but Morgana is defeated. Mordred is defeated. He gets Gawain to throw the sword into the water, return it to the lady in the lake. At first, Gawain doesn't want to do it, can't bring himself to do it, but it's on his honor has to finally do it. And I think as a film, very messy. It's a very messy movie. It kind of drags in certain places. There's kind of some stuff that doesn't quite work, but there's enough elements in it that I think are really, really fun. And memorable.
Absolutely. I think it's interesting, like seeing these things at different times of your life, right? Because when I saw Gladiator, like I say, I was in that sort of wilderness period, but it was one of those instigating things that dragged me back into it. And in fact, when I started working in Games Workshop retail, and I had to get into Warhammer Fantasy, they're like, right, you got to do an army. And I went, okay, well, I like ancient history, because of all this. So I've got the Tomb Kings, but what if I converted them all to be Romans? So I made a Roman Tomb King army. That was my first proper one that I learned to play the game with. I converted legionaries and the works and generals.
That's cool.
But for Excalibur, I think if I'd seen that around that time, I think it would have earlier installed that love of the knightly chivalry thing into me, because that part of the story definitely appeals to me, like doing trying to do the noble thing, the right thing, living by a code of honor. And I find it really fascinating and compelling when characters fail to meet up to those ideals, but then try and redeem themselves, because that's human, right? I think I would have been. I wonder what I would have thought of the film had I seen it when I was 15. Nowadays, I can appreciate that part of it because it appeals to something I already love. But it is quite a clunkily put together movie. Like you do have to pay attention. It's simultaneously slow, but also breakneck speed, isn't it? It's very strange. Yeah. Like I'll have a long drawn out scene, and then the next one, tons of stuff happens or has happened for another long drawn out scene. It's very, very oddly paced.
Yeah, I think that's right. That's a very good way of describing it, actually, yeah. And maybe that is just like, that's the effect of the magic on us as viewers. It's all, it's temporal dilation, things are not quite right. Yeah. There's an oddness to everything in it. But I think it's interesting because I was looking back through old White Dwarfs just to sort of see what inspirations various artists used to call on.
Mm.
And they used to do the Illuminations column in White Dwarf, if you recall that, which John Blanche would basically curate a little bit of art from a different artist each issue.
Yeah, yeah.
And most of those would feature, okay, what's your favorite movie? What's your favorite music? Excalibur comes up a fair few times. So Dave Andrews mentions it. Paul Bonner mentioned it.
Yes, I can totally see Dave Andrews being a big fan of this film, with all the plate armor and everything, and the chaos design. Because the earlier armor is very dark, isn't it? Until Camelot takes over, the armor goes from like a black metal to a shining, gleaming metal, and they've all got horns and spikes and stuff all over their plates, haven't they? But when it's the Knights of the Round Table, it's all clean and smooth and elegant, which I thought was a very interesting contrast, and I know Dave would love that sort of thing.
Yeah, and there's you get the now I'm not sure how you pronounce it, right? But it's the hound skull. Bassinet?
Oh, the sort of the pointer one.
The beaky Space Marine beaky helmets, basically.
Yeah, I thought that was a pig-faced bassinet.
Oh, it may well be.
Wrong.
It may well be.
It might be I'm not sure, but the helmet type is a bassinet.
Yeah, so it's the kind of pointed nose, and that's you see a load of guys wearing that in some scenes as well.
Yeah, with the little eye slits like go down.
Yeah, and it does look very cool. I think Adrian Smith also has said that this was a personal favorite of his back in the day as well.
Yeah.
So it feels like the way in which magic works and knights and all that kind of stuff. I can feel a bit of that flowing into some of the kind of the Warhammer world, the fantasy world in particular. But it definitely feels like there's something there.
Like dark mystery of it. Like there's magic in the land all around you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice way of putting it, actually. Yeah, dark mystery for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of grim as well.
Oh, it's very grim. And it did make me laugh how in the mud the peasants are when everything's gone wrong and Arthur's not doing his duties. And they're all in the mud again. And again, it made me think of those peasants in Monty Python who were just shoveling mud and all this. There's some lovely muck here,
And that, because I think Monty Python and the Holy Grail predates this by a number of years.
Does it really?
I think
I suppose it does, doesn't it? Yeah.
But there are a few moments in the movie where I think you're right. And there's almost, John Borman must have gone, well, they did this in the Holy Grail. We're going to do it, but for real. We're going to show it in a serious way.
That could be it. Yeah, I could well be wrong on that. I don't really know when the Monty Python's one was.
I think it was I think it was mid to late 70s, maybe 76 or something. Something around that time.
But I really do appreciate how Excalibur took it all seriously. And there was no sly winks to a camera of or any Marvel style quips to camera or anything like that. Everything was taken with great gravitas and very serious, wasn't it? And you could see having Patrick Stewart in there, he gives it his all, right?
I think so,
and that's cool, right?
Yeah, I think so, and because because everything's quite earnest and there's quite a sort of everything has weight and is important, and there's a lot of a lot of prophecies and all that kind of stuff. But there's a couple of lines that I really like. One is the future has taken root in the present.
Yes,
which Merlin says when a bad choice has been made that's going to change the course of history, basically. Yes. And I think that's really cool. And actually, that ended up quoted in Zack Snyder's Justice League because Zack Snyder's a massive fan of Excalibur. So one of those odd little crossover moments.
Nod to it,
yeah. And then the other one was when a man lies, he kills some god in the world. You should know that. And I think that's quite cool. And that speaks to exactly like you say, the knightly thing to do is tell the truth, and truth is the most important virtue. And one of the knights says it at one point.
Yeah.
It's the truth is the most important thing. Lying is what it leads to so much darkness and so many problems later on.
Yeah. It makes me think of, funnily enough, another Ridley Scott movie, Kingdom of Heaven, where they have the oath, speak the truth always, even if it leads to your death.
Sure.
Yeah, it's that's an Excalibur based. They never particularly say an oath or anything, but you can see that is woven into their character. When they don't do it, that's when bad stuff happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, completely. Well, I mean, I think there's probably another few hours worth of things to explore in both of these movies. Now, I've already taken so much of your time, so I won't keep you talking. I won't take us on to another movie.
Oh, that's all right. That's right. Yeah, we could go into the next one. Yeah, but I've enjoyed the reflection of it. I found it quite an experience seeing Gladiator again, and it was really cool to see Excalibur at last because I've heard about it for years, and I'd heard it was influential in early Warhammer, so it's cool to see all that coming together. It definitely makes me want to play with my Bretonians again,
which is what it's all about, really. Yeah. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Duncan. It's been great.
Well, thank you for having me.
Join us next time on the Warhammer Film Club when I'm joined by Guy from Midwinter Minis to chat Patlabor and Blade Runner. Or go to patreon.com/Jordan Sorcery to listen to the entire season right now.